For my literature review, I'm going to be talking about how genetic testing is being used to convict relatives of those who use ancestry websites without their knowledge. So, who needs this information and why? So, my statement of purpose is to inform users of genealogical websites such as Ancestry.com, 23andMe, and GED Match of the potential risks and concerns that may arise with genealogical testing being used now by the FBI and investigators to solve crimes. So, who's the audience? The audience is people who use these ancestry websites. So, lots of people upload their ancestry DNA because they want to find who more about their heritage, where they came from, who they're related to, and maybe even potential health risks that they might have that have come down from past descendants. And so, a little overview of what my paper is going to be about. So, genetic testing in the field of criminology is a relatively new practice. It just started in 2018. And it is helping law enforcement capture criminals of unsolved cases, some of which have been unsolved for decades, and they're just now being captured. So, what is genetic testing? Genetic testing is also known as DNA testing, and it is used to identify changes in DNA sequences or chromosome structure. And there's a big difference between Ancestry and Me, or Ancestry.com and 23andMe compared to GED Match. So Ancestry.com and 23andMe, they use DNA that you submit. So you submit your DNA to these, and I'll talk a little bit more about this process in a second. But you submit your DNA to them, and that they use descendants. It's called identical by descent DNA, also known as IBD. And what GED matches is you upload what Ancestry 23andMe sends you. So your DNA is then uploaded by you to GED Match, and that uses all kinds of different ancestry websites to compare you and figure out relatives. So the purpose of Ancestry and 23andMe is to find who you're descended from, to learn more about your grandparents, like direct descendants. GED Match is used to find relatives that are living now. So how does this process work? So users voluntarily upload their DNA to GED Match, and what investigators then do is they send the samples that have been taken from crime scenes that DNA has been left at, they send them to Parabon Labs, and Parabon Labs is just now launching. They launched in 2018, and it's a commercial forensic genealogical service. And so far, they've identified 36 cold case victims. And what they do is they'll do initial DNA testing. So this will tell you skin color, eye color, hair color. And if those seem like they could be a potential match, they will then go and do a further investigation where they use a personal genealogist to analyze the data, analyze the DNA, and then figure out which family tree they came from and which one they are. So this family tree is then narrowed down, and a victim is usually been able to put in place considering birth records, their age, where they're located, things like that. And I'll give kind of an examples here in just a second. So a few things that I still need to work on, but I want that are main focal points of my paper is what laws and policies are already in place to protect users of these websites, and then where is genealogical testing going in the future. So a little bit of background and like how this has started and how I found it. So on the left is Joseph James DeAngelo. He's most popularly known as the Golden State Killer. He killed over 12 women throughout California starting in the 1970s. He also raped over 50 women and is charged with over 100 burglary charges. His crime spanned over 12 years, and they had not had a lead on him, so it had been over 30 to 40 years before he'd even been caught. So what they did is they took samples uploaded by relatives of Joseph James DeAngelo and compared it to his samples that were at the DNA sites. So they were able to trace it back. I'm pretty sure he was caught through a distant cousin, I think a second cousin, and they narrowed it down to him. So these had been cold cases. They had no leads on his investigation or anything, and it had been 40 years. So without genealogical testing, they probably never would have caught him in the first place. And then the guy on the left is John Miller. So he is the killer of April Tinsley. This happened in 1988 in Fort Wayne, Indiana. And what he did is he also left DNA samples at the crime scene, which were collected by law officers. And what this law enforcement did is they sent this also to Parabon Labs, who were able to match the DNA to either him or his brother. And they narrowed it down to John Miller because he was already on their radar. They had interviewed him and interrogated him years beforehand, but they were not able to have enough enough information to actually convict him. And then, so some preliminary findings. So I actually submitted my own DNA to Ancestry.com. I've been really into like my heritage and things like that lately. So I kind of wanted to see how it works. And I thought it was really relative to this too. So I can kind of figure out what processes they go through and the safety concerns they take. So the process, I have a picture on the next slide. So what you do is you buy this kit and it comes with all of these things inside. So you spit in this little tube and you then shake it put this on top and then you shake the stuff inside. And what it does is there is a barcode that has your exact barcode identification on it, and you link it up to a app. This is then submitted to their headquarters in Utah, and you'll get your results back in 6 to 8 weeks. So I think I still have like 4 weeks before I'll know at most. And then the precautions that I had to go through. So when you're uploading this and you're going through all the different things that they like show you on the app, they ask you multiple questions. They have a lot of different contracts that Ancestry uses. They ask you if you want your DNA to be stored there, or if you want it to be destroyed. So after doing this, I obviously said I wanted mine to be destroyed. The reason they say they'll hold it for you is just so you don't have to go through this whole process again in case you need it for something else. They also ask you if you want your DNA to be used for research purposes. I too said no to that. And then they also ask if you want potential relatives to contact you that are using only Ancestry.com. I said no to this too, but this is something I can go back and change if I wish to. I've been kind of panicked now with all of this. And so what have I done and what do I have left? So my work completed. I'm pretty much done with the background and the introduction. There's just probably a few more things I need to tweak. My sources are also pretty good too. I first learned about this from Crime Junkies, which is a popular podcast. They interviewed Fort Wayne's chief of police, and he talked a little bit about the process and how it happened, things like that. So I have that. I also have a lot of things from genealogical scientists who talk about what they think if the process is going to be doing in the future, where this is going, things like that. Some things that I still need to do is I really need to look at the laws and policies that are already in place, and I need to know where the future of genetic testing is going by reading those articles of those genealogists. I also need to conduct a little bit more of secondary research about like how many people have been in potential of being in risk, things like that. So some feedback. I just want to know if y'all have a clear understanding of what genetic testing is and how it's being used, like the process of how they'll be able to convict these killers. And then if you think genetic testing is beneficial or is a privacy concern. And then also wanted to know if the purpose of my report will be fulfilled by research when I am finished completing all of it. So thank y'all so much.